Okay, so here we go. Theoretical and empirical planes in research. The idea of theoretical and empirical planes in research is this, that you, when you start doing your research, you have more like a broad idea in your mind. You have a, a more major field or discipline in your mind in which you would like to do some kind of research. For example, as I was talking to Javi, he had some idea related to community radio. As Lizo said, he has some idea related to ICT and Educational Institute. And then Sonakshi was saying she has some idea related to OTT platform. These are the broad areas that you have in mind, but practically it is not possible for you to entirely take up this field and do research about each and everything related to these fields which you have selected. Now Javier cannot go and figure out everything related to community radio in this period of 2 to 3 years that you'll be having for your research. Neither can Lizo go and talk to each and every person who is using ICT in India in education institutes. So what you need to do is you need to bring this more theoretical idea to a more working idea, to a more working level. And this shift from theoretical idea to the working idea is what we, in terms of research terminology, we call it as moving from theoretical plane to empirical plane. Here plane means the level or the stages. So these are two stages in your research, and these two stages are covered in the first three steps of your research process has few basic steps. One first step is that you identify your research problem. Second step is that you go about doing a review of the literature related to your research problem. Third is this, on the basis of the review that you have done, you state your hypothesis. And then from the fourth one, you actually start doing your research work, that is, you start framing your research design. So these are the first three steps which you cover from theoretical to empirical plane. Okay, so we'll start with the very first step, that is identifying your research problem. So what you people are doing right now is that each one of you is identifying your research problem. Right now आप सभी लोग अपनी research problem पे काम कर रहे हैं. You're trying to understand what your interests are. You're trying to understand what you could do with the research area you have in mind. So this is the part where you are brainstorming for the research idea, for the research area you have in your mind. Now how do you move to the empirical plane? How do you go to the working level? What you do is you bifurcate your research problem into two different dimensions. Number one is construct और concepts. नंबर टू इज proposition. आप अपने जो रिसर्च प्रॉब्लम है उसको दो हिस्सों में बांटते हैं. वन इज द कॉन्स्ट्रक्ट और कॉन्सेप्ट, अनदर इज द proposition. Construct or concepts are the same thing. Concepts means the major concepts, the major theoretical ideas involved in your research problem. And proposition means the relationship between the concepts that you are talking about. कॉन्सेप्ट या कॉन्स्ट्रक्ट जो है वो कंस्ट्रक्शन वर्ड से निकला हुआ वर्ड है. कॉन्स्ट्रक्ट का मतलब है जिनसे मिला के आप थ्योरी का कंस्ट्रक्शन करते हैं. थिंग्स विच यू विल बी यूजिंग इन द कंस्ट्रक्शन प्रोसेस ऑफ योर research theory. So here construct and concepts are the same things. Concept means that the major ideas of your research problem, and proposition means the relationship that you propose between your concepts. आप जो concepts use कर रहे हैं या आपके दिमाग में जो आपके research problem से related जो concepts हैं उनके बीच आपस की relationship क्या है उसको हम proposition बोलते हैं. यानी कि जो relationship आप propose कर रहे हो अपने research area से related उसको हम बोलते हैं proposition. So what we do is, at this level we identify what our concepts are, and we also identify what relationship we are proposing. For an example, let's say that somebody wants to do a research that how the changes in the use of you could say OTT platform, or in the use of smartphone during the pandemic has affected the audience you could say audience understanding of digital technology. So this is one idea or one research area you have in mind. So here you have different concepts involved. One is the concept of smartphones, another is the concept of digital technology, and then you have the concept of pandemic here also. So what you are saying that as smartphone as digital technology has been extensively used during the pandemic or the COVID pandemic. So what it has done with the audience, or how audience has used this particular technology during the lockdown. So what you would like to propose about these concepts? Let's say as a researcher I propose that the extensive use of smartphones during the pandemic by the audience gives us an idea that people they do not have a very compassionate relationship in their personal lives. They do not have particular hobbies, they do not have particular art activities or sport activities. They look forward to their smartphones or TV or a platform like this to serve them the entertainment. So this kind of relationship I am proposing. This is the proposition, this is the idea that I propose as a researcher between the concepts of my research problem. Now the point comes that how will I do research about this thing? Smartphones are a major topic of today's technology, of today's economy. You have n number of brands producing smartphones, you have n number of networks giving you data pack, people have different things on smartphones, n number of gaming apps, n number of social media platforms. So how I am going to do research about this such a big and broad never ending field of smartphones? And what I'm going to do with the idea of pandemic? How will I'm going to talk to people and ask what kind of use they have been doing from these smartphone technology, from the digital technology? So these are big questions and you need to narrow it down. How will you narrow it down? You will start reviewing the literature. Now what do you mean by literature here? Literature here doesn't mean novels. Literature here means anything or everything related to your research problem which has been properly reported, properly documented, properly researched by previous researchers. तो आपके रिसर्च टॉपिक से जुड़ी हुई कोई भी चीज जो पहले प्रूव करी जा चुकी है, डॉक्यूमेंट करी जा चुकी है, डॉक्यूमेंट वीडियो फॉर्म में भी हो सकता है जिसको हम डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज बोलते हैं. सो इट कुड बी रिटन डॉक्यूमेंट, इट कुड बी अ वीडियो डॉक्यूमेंट, दैट इज डॉक्यूमेंट्री. It could be a research paper, it could be a research article, it could be a thesis, it could be a dissertation, it could be a research report, it could be some organizational proven document, official document, it could be anything. It could be even a book written by somebody with proper facts and figures. So this is what you call literature. So now what you will do related to your research problem and related to the proposition that you have given for the concepts, you will start reading the literature, and you will start not just reading, you will start reviewing it. Reviewing means that you will start understanding what it means, what kind of research people have done, what kind of methods they have used, what they could find out at the end of their research work, and what is that they have yet not attempted in their research, what is still left to be attempted by future researchers. And there lies your scope. जो नहीं करा है पहले किसी ने, वहां पर आपका स्कोप है. सो जो चीजें नहीं हुई हैं उनमें से आप ढूंढेंगे कि आप बेहतर क्या कर सकते हैं. जस्ट अ सेकेंड. And that will help you in reaching to another plane which is empirical plane. ये आपको हेल्प करेगा कि आप empirical plane तक पहुंचे. empirical plane का मतलब है कि आपने अपने concepts को variable में बदल लिया है और अपने proposition को hypothesis में बदल लिया है. empirical plane means something which could be empirically researched, something which could be scientifically done, something which could be practically done in the real life. So what you will do, you will change your concepts into variables, you will change your proposition into hypothesis, and then you will start doing your research work. Now, what do you mean by variables? Variable mean anything that could have a different value, that can have different, or that can have varied values. That is why the name, that is why that is why the name variable is there. It varies, यानी कि इस किसी भी चीज जिसकी वैल्यू वेरी करती है उसे हम वेरिएबल बोलते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, योर हाइट इज अ वेरिएबल, योर वेट इज अ वेरिएबल, your opinion about something on daily basis is a variable, and how people vote in a country is a variable. The share market data that you get on daily basis or hourly basis is a variable. Your income could be a variable. So everything is a variable that changes its values. And what is hypothesis? Hypothesis is the practical form of your proposition. This is the working form of your proposition. Hypothesis means something that is tentative. Tentative means एक अनुमान लगाना, एक अंदाजा लगाना. For example, you have some kind of party at your home tomorrow, and then somebody asks you what could be the budget of the party. So you say, you will reply that we can manage the party within 10,000. This is your tentative budget. You may spend 8,000, you may end up spending somewhere around 12,000, 13,000, but a tentative budget you have in your mind, something that gives you an idea about what is going to happen. So hypothesis in terms of research means a tentative statement about what could possibly there in your research problem. What research result would you possibly be getting at the end of your research? So this is how the idea goes. You have the theoretical plane, you have empirical plane, you have concept or construct A, then you have construct or concept B. You changes construct into independent variable, and then you change construct or concept B into dependent variable. Your proposition changes into hypothesis. This is how you have the change from theoretical plane to empirical plane, and this is how you move from the first step of research process, that is identifying your research problem, to your second step, that is literature review, and then to your third step, which is stating the hypothesis. Okay, so the point comes, how do we state the hypothesis, or how do we provide the working form of our research problem? So that we will talk about. How do we state the hypothesis? First we talk about that in this theory construction of theoretical to empirical plane, what other things are used. The other things that will help you in reaching from theoretical plane to empirical plane is logic. I have already talked about logic in my previous class with you. I guess two weeks back we talked about it. Logic is the argument that you give for changing for formulating your hypothesis. अपनी hypothesis को बनाने के लिए, उसको propose करने के लिए जो आप argument देते हैं उसको हम logic बोलते हैं. So logic in terms of research could be of two types. One is deduction, another is induction. लॉजिक रिसर्च के रेफरेंस में दो ही तरह के होते हैं, डिडक्शन या इंडक्शन. डिडक्शन जो लॉजिक है, इट स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम अ प्रूवन थ्योरी. फॉर एग्जांपल, देयर इज वन थ्योरी which is known as agenda setting theory, which says that media sets the agenda for what people will be talking about, what people will be thinking about. So they give people the agenda that has to be dealt with in public forum. So let's say I go and I say that on the basis of agenda setting theory, I will be analyzing the content of the newspaper The Hindu for 6 months, and I would like to know if this newspaper is able to set the agenda for what people talk about in more general sense. Okay, so on the basis of this theory, what I will do, I will collect the data of 6 months for this particular newspaper, and then I will analyze that what news they have given and what people have been talking about. So if there are similarities, then I will say that yes, their newspaper has been able to set the agenda, so the theory stands valid. If I will say no, I will see no similarity between the content of the newspaper and then the agenda that are popular there among people in the public forum, then I will say that the agenda setting theory doesn't stand valid in today's time. So this is how do you use deduction logic. And then there is one more logic, which is induction. Induction logic says that you start from your observation. You start from observing rather than starting from a theory. So how do you observe? For example, I have been reading the newspaper the Hindu from a very long period of time, and I have noticed that they do publish a lot of stories related to development, related to serious issues of development in our country. And I would like to give a theory of development communication, or of print media as an important tool for development communication. So what I will do, I will, on the basis of my observation, I will see if there is regularity in this work from the newspaper end, or this is by chance. If I'll be able to see the regularity, that means I will be able to see the pattern in the working style of the Hindu for development. Then what will I do? I will propose a hypothesis that uh, is is the Hindu serving as a better tool of development in terms of print journalism, or in terms of development communication, in terms of social responsibility theory. And then I will research about it. So in terms of induction logic, you don't start from the theory that you have already that has already been proven by somebody. What you do is you start from the observation. So that is the difference between deduction and induction. In deduction, you deduce. From where you deduce? You deduce from a theory which has already been proven by somebody. So you deduce from the already proven theory, then you select the sorry, you collect the data, and then you prove whether this theory is valid or not. In induction, you start from your observation, you give a hypothesis, and then you end up either constructing a theory, or just end up giving more ideas for people to formulate new hypotheses in future research. This is how do you have logic. And apart from logic, you also have assumptions in theory construction. Assumptions means that even in terms of mathematical calculation, you need to assume the value of x. You will say that let us assume the value of x to be 2, and then you put that value into an equation, and then you sort it out. So this is the idea same in research. So in order to do your narrow research, you need to assume few things for the broader field from where you have selected your topic. आपने इतने बड़े एरिया में से अपना छोटा टॉपिक सेलेक्ट करा है, तो कुछ चीजें आपको मान के चलनी पड़ती हैं, और उन assumptions को आपको लिस्ट करना, डॉक्यूमेंट करना बहुत जरूरी है, so that the other people who would be using your research, they know that these are the things which you have to assume in order to apply the result of the research that the person has done. तो ये चार चीजें बहुत जरूरी हैं थ्योरी कंस्ट्रक्शन के लिए. पहला, theoretical plane, in which you have constructs and proposition. Second is empirical plane, in which you have variables and hypothesis. And then logic and assumption. Logic and assumption will help you in formulating your hypothesis. So let us move to the other topic that we need to talk about today, that is hypothesis. So let's talk about hypothesis.